it's important to know that when you get your internship, or however it works out during your first year here, does not at all reflect your worth or your employability or how much value you're going to contribute. I think it's really important to have a strong sense of yourself, especially when you see your classmates taking a different approach than what feels right for you, than what you feel called to do.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intersection podcast presented by the Georgia Tech Scheller College of Business. I'm your host, Prem Rupawala, a first-year MBA student here at Scheller, and I'm excited to welcome you to this new episode. So today I have three first-year MBA students here with me, Lauren Dasher, Leonardo Ribeiro, and Angelica Martini. So welcome to the couch today. Really looking forward to having a chat with you about internship journeys and the recruiting process. So how are you all doing?
Good.
Hey.
Good.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
having us.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here with me. So I guess the first place I want to start off is just having a little bit of an idea about what was your process like kind of coming into the program, thinking about recruiting. Did you have an idea where you wanted to go when you started? What was that kind of, bright-eyed first day? I remember it was roughly the 15th of August. We came in, we had that crazy orientation. How did you feel? What did you think about in terms of recruiting? Where were your minds? Who wants to start?
I can start. So for me, I feel like recruiting started even before the fall semester began.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but I think I started thinking about recruiting maybe like the May before the MBA program actually started.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, so for myself, I'm a Forté fellow, and I know, Lauren, you're a Forté fellow as well. So we, getting prepared for going to the Forté Conference, I think needed to have kind of in mind like a direction that we plan to really head with the MBA, or at least have some sort of like interest outlined. And then, at Scheller, the career services really prepares us throughout the summer, like prepping our resume or just learning about different industries. And so I think I had a taste of what different industries look like coming into August, but maybe hadn't necessarily started pursuing anything heavily.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. So there's a lot of homework during the summer, even the career services gives you. So you have a lot of time to think about it. You're going to be editing resumes and thinking of interview stories and all of that. I'm an engineer by training. I come from a very technical role. So I was thinking I'm going to go to Georgia Tech and I'm going to get a job in tech, right? And the natural transition for that is product manager or an R&D manager type of stuff. So that's what I had in my mind when I was here. And basically, as you mentioned, in that week of August 15th, and I got to meet all of these guys that have different backgrounds, and we're thinking of different things, and I got to learn of all the other paths that we can explore here. And I don't want to spoil it because I'm sure we're going to talk about it, but I'm not interested in tech. So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. What about you, Lauren?
Yeah, so I came into this program really interested in leadership development programs. I wanted to be in a role that gave me visibility into a lot of different areas of business, but I wasn't so sure if consulting would be the right path for me because I wanted to be within an organization for a longer period of time and see that impact. So yeah, I was really coming in looking to explore, and it was a great experience. We'll get into that more.
For sure. Okay. No, that's really helpful. And I think, Angelica, you touched on something interesting that maybe for our listeners and viewers maybe don't know about, things like the Forté Foundation, and I know Lauren was involved in that as well. Can you kind of shed any light on, what was that process like, kind of going to the conference before your MBA even started for both of you? Did you have much involvement in, what the networking would be like? What preparations did you have to do, just for some of our potential listeners?
Yeah, so just to give some background, so Forté is an organization, as you guys know, that supports women in business, and is really an organization not only that supports you, but really helps you kind of in your preparations for recruitment and deciding what career path is best for you. And so the preparation going into the Forté Conference, which to provide some context around that, it's a 3-day conference that happened, maybe like mid-July, where, partner employers with Forté come, and there's a very large career fair, but there's also, different sessions where you can learn about brand management or consulting or working in investment banking. Yeah, and so the preparation that I did for that was mostly just seeing what companies were coming to the conference, what Georgia Tech alum might be affiliated with those, with those specific companies, so that I could, potentially get to know some alums and also get to know their experience at that company. I think what I did is I made like a list maybe of 12 different companies I wanted to talk to, and went and specifically sought them out to kind of, start to put out feelers, right? I didn't know where kind of, that would end up leading. But I think one really cool thing to come out of Forté is that my employer for my internship, I actually met when I was at Forté. So it ended up working out incredibly well for me. Yeah.
Well, that's good encouragement for these types of conferences. So anything to add on that, Lauren?
Yeah, I would say that Forté has a lot of really great resources. One of my favorite things about the conference was being able to sit in on panels and just hear about people doing a lot of different things in a lot of different spaces and kind of think like, oh, I'm interested in that, or oh, that actually wasn't what I thought it was. So yeah, it was a great experience. And also it's nice to start the recruiting process with some fellow classmates.
Awesome. That's great. Just switching gears a little bit, I want to get a bit more of an idea of where you kind of started from when we started the program and how you approached recruiting. And then we'll kind of get into, how that culminated, what you ended up getting. But yeah, so how did you approach that recruiting process and when did you start?
And I can start on this one. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of summer assignments, and one of the ones that were more interesting to me is reading the 2-Hour Job Search. I forget who the author is, if anyone remembers, but it's a former Yale career coach. And it's pretty interesting. I wouldn't say that it's an algorithmic method. So basically, you have a set of instructions that you have to follow to try to get a job, and it makes it really easy on you because it's algorithmic, right? You don't have to think too hard. You just have to make a list of companies where you want to work, and then you go approach those people and network with those people. I thought that was pretty interesting. That's where I kind of got started in my search. I made my lamp list of 40 companies as directed by the book, and then I started ranking them according to different features, whether the salaries were good, whether it fits with my background, whether I can add any value to the company and whatnot. There are different features that they have. And then you make a list of 20 at most, and they tell you to go reach out to the first 5, see what happens. Network. Try to get a referral, try to get good information, and then if that doesn't work, if you hit a wall on any of them, then try the next 5, and then you keep going. I started with this process because it seemed from the book that it was pretty tried and tested. A little disappointed to report that nothing came out of it. Yeah, like a lot of things you do in your job search, nothing comes out of it, right? And then you start looking at other options. So then, at about the time I was done with this entire lamp list thing. The different events were happening at Georgia Tech. So they have a lot of consulting companies come here to talk to us. They had Honeywell and some other tech companies come here to talk to us. And then you start doing a more targeted approach where you find people that you like, find people that resonate with you, and try to see if they have any advice. And on top of all of that, of course, you just have to apply to as many jobs as possible. Yeah. Right. It's also, at the end of the day, it's also a numbers game. So you just have to be, while you don't have an internship, you have to be every day looking at the MBA jackets and the LinkedIn jobs and all that stuff, and applying aggressively because some of those companies may actually like you.
Definitely. I think you touched on a lot of things there. So you've kind of spoken a little bit about some of the resources that kind of Scheller can provide, and maybe some of the books that we were able to read before we started. Lauren and Angelica, did you have any experience with those? And how would you say kind of throughout the process of, at least in the first semester, how maybe what you came in with as an idea of recruiting, how that may have changed? And also, Leo, if you want to kind of jump in on that too.
I just want to echo that this book was absolutely amazing. The 2-Hour Job Search, I also do not remember the author's name, unfortunately.
I'm sure we can find it.
Yes, I recommend that book to so many people, even people not pursuing an MBA, just because it completely, it changes your strategy for searching for a job altogether. And it shows you the power of the network that you've cultivated even before coming into the MBA, and how you can really leverage that to even, I think, make your job prospects even greater throughout your time at Scheller. But to answer your question more directly about how kind of everything changed for me, so a little bit about me. Before Scheller, I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank as an economic research analyst, and then I worked as a market and customer insights manager at this company called Shep North America. And so I really love what I did at Shep. I really liked insights specifically, and I saw myself doing something like customer experience insights management after the MBA. Once I got here, it seemed like the world had just completely opened to
Yeah.
me, and I was like, I could be an investment banker, I could be a consultant, I could be a brand manager, I could be absolutely anything.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless. And looking back, it was, I think, great that I explored all of those options. But, to what Lauren said about going to the panels or speaking to people directly who had that work experience, I started to narrow things down a little bit. I'll say this: I did not think I was like very no consulting at all before coming into the program.
Yeah.
And then I think getting a taste of what a consultant gets to do, I did, recruit for consulting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's an iterative process.
Definitely.
It's something that you iterate on, and you'll have one experience, whether that's like a coffee chat or an interview or whatever it might be, that might change your direction. And I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that because it's an iterative process, you need to be agile.
Totally. Yeah. And be open.
Yeah, and so I think that's how mine went. I was narrowed and then wide and then narrow again. Yeah.
That's great. I feel like the career services homework was really helpful for me because I think, so I'm a career switcher. I was a teacher before starting my MBA, as y'all know, and I was honestly not so sure what I was going to want to do post MBA. And part of my reasoning for getting my MBA was to be able to take classes in a lot of different subjects and just see what resonated with me, what was a good fit for my skill sets and my interests. So I think a big part of my process was actually just like having conversations with alumni throughout the fall semester and spring semester, and learning more about what they did directly from them. My journey definitely unfolded as the months went by. So I would say what I found super helpful were things like visits from companies on campus, where you could connect and learn more about their companies and roles firsthand.
Yeah.
I was just going to add to that, in addition to company experts, your colleagues as well, because
Exactly.
I didn't know we were going to have former investment bankers and consultants and teachers and people of the most different background here. So just talking to your colleagues makes a huge difference too in figuring that stuff out.
Definitely.
I strongly encourage going to those info sessions, even if it's a company you don't know, you think maybe you know a little bit about or you don't know about at all, because I discovered so much even about the company and like what they do and what roles they have. And I actually think that's one thing that kept attracting me to consulting throughout the process. I said I really was interested in customer experience and insights. I didn't realize there was customer experience consulting specifically, like customer experience arms. Bain is a huge proponent of like customer experience and the Net Promoter Score. And I think if I just looked at consulting as just a monolith and all the same thing, and didn't go to those info sessions, I wouldn't have known what I could even really do within that discipline.
Yeah, totally. I'm also a little bit curious now as well. So we're soon going to get into kind of where you all ended up, but just curious around that journey. It's really kind of vast. You kind of, in certain ways, you have an idea of where to start, and you can kind of follow an algorithmic method like the 2-hour job search. But I also think one of the key learnings I found from that book was realizing that not everyone's going to support you, right? And, some people are going to talk to you, and then that networking aspect can go well. Sometimes it doesn't go well, and I think it builds that level of resilience. But I think the whole process in its entirety can be quite challenging. So I just want to hear from the three of you, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced throughout the entire process? And then you can kind of lead that up with, where did it end up, and where have you ended up?
For me, it was just momentum.
Yeah.
Momentum. If I were to put it in 3 words, it's momentum. I had never faced this much rejection in my life, and I had never been on a level of competition that was to the caliber of other business school students.
Yeah.
Even students within the cohort and the students like around the country.
Definitely.
We have incredible talent here at Scheller, and there's also so many other incredibly talented people across the country competing for very similar internships, to you. And for myself, thinking even back to Forté, I remember, I consider I'm a self-proclaimed type A person. I always come to a conference, I'm like prepared with my outfits pressed and my folders. I've mapped out all of the people I want to talk to, and I know exactly who's going to be there. And at least my experience, in so many business school settings is that everyone is exactly like that.
Yeah.
And I had never been in a room where absolutely everyone was the shining star.
Yep.
It came with a lot of imposter syndrome, for sure. And I had to take that to myself and be like, all right, this is where I level up. Like, this is what I came back to school to do, and that's to make myself better. And this is going to be really hard. And it was.
Yeah,
hence the momentum and the rejection. And yeah, I think there were times where throughout the internship process, I had just told myself, I absolutely killed that job interview. There's no way, there's no one else they could hire for this that's better than the performance that, I just put on. And I would get rejected and I would get a no, and that would be the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
And so, more than ever, I had to really pick myself back up and get back out there. And so for me, it was like momentum, rejection, and the caliber of competition, hands
Love that.
down.
Great
Artist.
Great answer.
I can go next. I think one thing that was challenging for me is that everyone's going to do their recruiting journey differently. And, some people take the strategy of casting a wide net and looking at a lot of different options. Whereas for me, I am kind of someone who wants to pick a handful of things and go really deep, talk to a lot of people from that one company. So I think what was hard for me is sometimes I felt pressured to regularly go on LinkedIn, apply to as many jobs as I could, whereas what I actually felt like what was best for me to do was to focus on the core companies that I could really see myself at. So for me, it was learning how to say no to doing absolutely everything I could and say yes to doing what felt like the right next step for me.
I love that, and I think that's kind of a strategy that a lot of people choose not to take, just because, for many reasons, and some people do. And I'm curious, taking that strategy, how are you able to kind of almost keep the faith that things will still go your way? Because some might argue that's kind of a risky strategy, and I know that it did work out, and I think you did great work to get to that spot. But just curious, how did you kind of stick through that and stay the course?
Thank you. Well, it ties into my personal philosophy. So as a teacher, I would look at all my kids and think there's a place for every single one of you in this world, and that place is waiting for you, and you're going to serve whichever community or organization you're in, and there's no one who could do it better than you, that specific role. And I feel that way about every person in this world. There's somewhere for you. So I just kept leaning into that idea that everyone in our class is going to find that spot where they're going to thrive and really contribute. So I would try to tell the same thing to myself.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, it's very interesting that you mentioned that, because that's a little different than my experience. I thought I was under the impression that I always had to apply to as many places as possible, because and this just goes to show how people's experiences are different with this stuff, right?
I'm with
some people know exactly what they want to do, and they're like, if I don't get exactly what I want, it's not really why I'm here. And then you get the motivation to do that. I, on the other hand, think I can do many things relatively well, but I don't know exactly what I want to do. So it was really important for me to apply to as many places as possible and talk to as many people as possible. And if I had an opportunity, I would first get the opportunity and then evaluate whether it worked for me or not. So just a completely different approach for different mentalities, I guess, around this thing. And just to comment on something you said about how competitive most of these jobs are. So most of them actually recruit nationally. So you're competing with people from other schools. If you're listening to this in your perspective, student at Scheller, you should know that the community at Scheller and the culture at Scheller is very much one of collaboration. So because we have a small class, we understand that the competition is outside, right? Even statistically, you have thousands of people outside applying to the same job, and you have 60 of your colleagues. So at the end of the day, it's much more productive for you to help your colleagues and build stuff together. And I think Scheller does a really good job at fostering that kind of environment. Everybody helps each other.
Yeah. I'll just add on to what you said. Totally echo all of that. I think too is not even sometimes it felt almost like competition, with myself. Could I keep going? Could I give more? Could I go to one more info session? But yeah, just to echo that, I think we leaned so hard on community. In fact, Lauren and I were the 2 finalists for one internship. And I think what I loved about our friendship and like something that represents who we are as a community is that Lauren and I were like quizzing each other, sharing information with each other, doing practice interviews with each other, like, you know, keeping us updated on what we had heard. You know, just I think information asymmetry is sometimes the biggest divider.
Definitely.
You know, and recognizing sometimes your power in sharing information or helping each other out in those, you know, in those small ways. I think it's really what makes community, right? And it's because it has this idea that like I'm not going to leave my fellow yellow jacket behind, even if we are going for the same role.
Definitely. No, I love that. A question I do have now, I know we're kind of coming towards a close, but I did want to ask, so, you know, all of this, we've spoken about a lot of the challenges, we've spoken about all the tactics, you know, some of the resources that you've used. Where did you end up? Where are you going to be interning this summer? And and maybe a little bit about, you know, what you're most excited for. So let's start with Lauren.
Okay, so I'll be at Delta Airlines this summer as a commercial customer strategy intern.
Amazing. So what's the thing you're most excited about?
Yeah, I'm most excited to be placed on a department. I don't know which one it will be yet, and just get thrown into a complex problem or issue or challenge, and that is new to me. That was one of my goals, was to be exposed to different aspects of a business. So I'm excited to find out what that will be.
Amazing. And Leo?
I'm going to be working at BCG Atlanta for the summer. It's a management consultant firm, and it'll be a generalist role. So I don't know exactly what projects I'm going to be given. Usually there's only enough time for one project over the summer. I don't know. I requested to maybe be part of their energy and utilities practice because it's more related to my background. But hey, they have a lot of other stuff going on.
They do a lot.
You never know. You never know where they're going to staff you. So I'm excited.
Could be anywhere, right?
Yeah, it could be anywhere, and I'm excited to figure out what it is, what the project is going to be. I did my strategy project for Cisco. It's kind of like a pro bono consultant project that you do as part of your core classes at Scheller, and I liked it really much. I didn't know anything about their business or anything about their products, what they do, and I really enjoyed that interaction with the client and getting everything together. So hopefully I'll get that experience as well over the summer, but this time getting paid.
Yeah, absolutely. And Angelica, where are you going to be?
Well, first, I just want to say I'm so excited for you guys, and I'm so proud of all of us, because like just being here, even saying like this is where we're going to intern is oh my gosh, it feels like you're at the top of a huge mountain you climbed. Sure. But yeah, so this summer I'm going to be a U.S. personal banking associate at Citibank, and I'm most excited because I'm moving to New York for the summer. Woohoo! So I get to live it up with my husband in Brooklyn and get to explore the city and have, you know, an exciting summer, not just living, but, you know, learning at Citi as well. So
amazing. Well, we're incredibly proud of you and happy for you for the kind of summers that you're gonna have. And
where are you gonna be interning over the summer?
The script has been flipped. I will be also interning in Atlanta at a strategy consulting firm called Simon Kutcher. So I'm very excited for that as well, and hopefully our listeners will be able to hear a little bit about my experience as well as we move forward. But the one thing I did want to say is we definitely would love to have you back after the summer, maybe in the next semester, to kind of hear how it went, and maybe things, you know, kind of a bit of a debrief on that entire process. So just before we kind of leave off today, I do want to get one final question. If you had one piece of advice to give to kind of the upcoming class or any future MBAs that are looking to kind of take on the program and could do with some pieces of wisdom from those that have had been able to bag some amazing internships, what would you give them? Trust in yourself. Trust in yourself ultimately, and your perseverance will always win. Love that. Yes.
Yeah, going back to the challenges that we faced, the lack of responsiveness from employers is a big issue.
Yeah.
And also the huge variation in when people get internships. So some people got internships last year, like September, October last year, and some people are getting them now. Totally. And it's important to know that it's not about you. It feels, of course, there's a lot of effort into it, but it also feels like sometimes people get lucky and they get one first. Sometimes they don't get lucky and it takes a while. So it's important for you to dissociate yourself from the entire process, learn how to deal with the rejection, and keep going and keep having that work ethic to go after it. And yeah, I'm sure at the end of the day, that's what matters most.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also, like what you said, like disassociate. Like I think it's important to know that when you get your internship, or however it works out during your first year here, does not at all. It doesn't reflect your worth or your employability or how much value you're going to contribute. I think it's really important to have a strong sense of yourself, especially when you see your classmates taking a different approach than what feels right for you, than what you feel called to do. So.
Awesome. Well, I love that. And I think the one thing I would echo as well is that, sometimes things won't go your way and you have to remember that it's not your fault. And I think definitely hold true, as Angelica said, trust in the process, trust in your classmates, trust in, Scheller. We have a great infrastructure here to kind of make things work out, and trust that it will work out, because it will, and everyone will end up in the right place. So thank you again for tuning into another episode of the Intersection podcast. I invite you to like, comment and subscribe to Apple, Spotify, YouTube and SoundCloud, and we'll see you again in the next one.